Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing good. As a part of our Python tutorial series in last few lectures, we learned about Python object-oriented programming, right? We created class, we created objects. We also learned about inheritance, right? We also learned about using super keyword, right? We also learned about method overriding in inheritance, right? Now, in this lecture, we will learn about Python functions and how Python functions can act as an object similar to integer or string, right? Python function can also be passed as a parameter, right? Python function can also be returned as a return type, and Python function can also be declared inside another function, right? So, without wasting time, let's start. So this is the script which I have prepared to demo you guys about the Python functions features. Okay. So first one we will learn is about Python function as an argument. Okay. So we know whenever we define a function, right? So we can give the argument parameter to that function, right? So we as a parameter we can even pass a function also. Okay. So to do that, I have declared two function. One is my number function, and it is just giving a message, right? This is a number function. Then I'm declared a string function, and a string function is giving a message. This is a string function, right? And then I'm declaring a data type function, which is taking one argument, which is function as parameter, and then I'm executing that parameter, right? So I'm going to pass a function, and then I'm going to execute that function inside this data type function. Okay, so I'll declare this data type function, and then one by one I'll pass this number function in this data type function, and then I'll pass this string function in this data type function. Okay, so let's start this demo. Okay, so let me declare this number function first. So let me open my ideal shell and let me paste it here. So this is my number function, right? This is giving a print message, enter, enter. Okay, so number function got defined, right? Next one is the string function. So let me just copy and paste it here. So this is my string function, right? Enter, enter. So string function got defined, right? Now next one is my data type function. This is my data type function, and it is taking one argument, right? So let me just paste it here, data type function and function as a parameter, right? So let me just do enter, enter, right? So data type function got declared, right? Now I'm going to call this data type function. I'll pass this number function and a string function one by one. Okay, so let me just execute first this data type function and passing the number function as parameter, right? So let me just paste it here, enter, right? So it is printing this is a number function, right? So number function is getting passed inside data type function, and we are executing that function which is passed, right, in data type function. So number functions gets executed, and it is printing a message, this is a number function, right. There's one more example, right? So we will pass a string function now in this data type function. Okay, so let me just paste it here. Okay, and let me just do enter, right? So this is a string function, right? It is giving me message as string function, right? Why? Because I'm passing a string function as a parameter in data type function, right? So I think you understood, right, that a function, this number function or a string function, right, that can be passed as a parameter inside another function, right? So one function can be passed inside another function as a parameter, right? So we learned Python function as an argument, right? Now next thing we learn about Python function defined and called in another function, okay? So there is one function, and we are going to define another function in that, and we are going to even call that function. Okay. So this is my number function, and in that there is a print message. This is a number function. Then I'm defining another function inside this number function, that is integer function, and this is giving a print message. This is an integer function, right? So this print message is in integer function, right? As a part of integer function. Now I'm going to execute the integer function inside the body of number function, right? So I'm defining integer function inside number function, right? And even I'm calling this integer function which is defined inside number function. Okay, so let me just let me just copy this and execute this code, and let me just create this number function. Enter, enter, right? So our number function got created, right? Now it is time to execute the number function. So let me just call this number function and let's see what happens. Okay, so let me just paste it here. I'm calling this number function, right? So I'm expecting that first this print message should get executed, right? After that there is a definition of integer function, and integer function is executed, right? So I'm expecting first this print message is getting executed, then this int function will get executed, which is going to print this print statement inside this integer function, right? So I'm expecting to print a statement, right? So let's do enter, right? So it is giving me two print statement, right? This is a number function, right? The first one, and the second one, this print statement, this is an integer function, right? So you understood, right, that one function can be defined inside another function. Even that function which is defined is can be called also inside that function, inside another function, right? So Python function can be defined and called in another function, right? Now next example, next function, Python function feature we'll learn is about Python function as return type. Okay, so as we passed as a parameter, here we passed as a parameter function, right? We passed function as a parameter. We can even return function as a return type, right? We can return function from another function. Okay, so we can return a return type as function. We can return another function from another one function, right? So this is the my number function, right? So I am just giving a print message as compared to the previous one, previous example, right? So this is a number function, then I'm defining another function called integer function, and in the body I'm printing this is an integer function. Now instead of calling this integer function, what I'm doing, I'm returning this integer function. Okay, so I've defined this integer function, I'm returning this integer function from this number function, right? So whenever number function will be called, the return type is integer function, right? So it is going to return an integer function, right? So let's just define first this function. Let me just copy and paste it here. So our function got defined, right? Now it's time to execute this function, right? So since this number function, whenever it gets executed, it is going to return an integer function, right? So I'm taking that integer function, this integer function into x, right? So x will act like an integer function, right? So let's just execute this one first. So let me just paste it here, x equals to integer function, right? So the number function got executed, right? And when number function got executed, so it is giving this first print message, right? And then it is returning this integer function into x, right? So x has the returned integer function, right? Now to execute this x or the integer function which is returned, right? So x is equivalent to integer function, right? So now I'm going to execute that x function which is now integer function and then print the value, right? So let's print it. So let me just copy and paste it here. Right, so in this time, the x function is getting executed, which is equivalent to return integer function, right? So enter, right? So you can see this integer function is getting executed, right? And it is printing this is an integer function, and since this integer function is not returning anything, it has just one print statement, so the returned value is none, right? We already know that by default a function, if it doesn't return anything, then it returns none as a default value, right? S- So I think you guys understood, right, that a function can act as a return type, right? So we can return a function from another function, right? So we can define a function inside another function, and then we can even return that function from another function, right? So Python function as a return type we learned, right? So I hope you guys like this lecture, right? If you guys like this lecture, please subscribe my channel. Thank you guys.